Welcome to the Hooked on Sport Cricket Show. This is South Australia's summer cricket wrap, where we uncover the stories, personalities and moments that define cricket across South Australia and beyond. It's time to talk cricket with Sophie Hilditch and Ben Hook.
Thanks, Wallace. Hey, Hookie, how are you going? What a fun weekend, and only a weekend of cricket that we had.
Well, we got diddled, I think, didn't we? Our mate Travis Head kind of ruined the weekend. I didn't get Sunday to just settle in on the couch. Had to go to the golf club and try and watch you in club championship final instead. Amazing. I don't want to spend too much time on the test right now, and you're going to explain why. I've got a question for you, though. Mitchell Starc, man of the match. What did you think?
I mean, it was a tough call. I think it almost felt like he needed to be a dual man of the match. I mean, he obviously, 10 wickets? It's incredible. Yes. He played incredible. I see the argument as to why he got it, but I mean, Travis Head, how can you move past him? It just seems a bit unfair.
It'll be one of the iconic innings of the generation of the game. It'll be remembered as one of the all-time great Ashes knocks. And why I would make the case for Travis Head over Mitchell Starc is that the point that Mitchell Starc took no further part in the game when England were bowled out in their second innings, that game was absolutely line ball. It was 50-50. In fact, there was probably an argument to make that England had their noses in front, that maybe they had 20 or 30 too many to beat Australia. And Travis, in 90 minutes, took it from being England as slight favourites to Australia rampaging to a dominant victory by 8 wickets. I think if you, on any rational assessment, Travis Head is the player of the match in that game by an absolute country mile. And I'm stunned, and it's probably because all of the media is a little bit New South Wales and Eastern States centric, but I'm stunned that hasn't had more airplay. There hasn't been more outright criticism, that a very, very good spell of bowling from Mitchell Starc has been enough to hold out one of the iconic innings of the era. I'm blown away by that, Sophie. I'm stunned that anyone could have possibly thought in a rational circumstance that Mitchell Starc was the man of the match at that game, because when he finished taking part in it, patently he was not.
Well, excuse the pun, but Travis Head really turned the game on its head and completely changed it. I think he actually brought England's game to them and they didn't know how to respond. And it was pretty, if I was an English fan, I'd be pretty disappointed, pretty sad to watch that. They let that game completely slip through their fingers, and all thanks to Travis Head. And also, I mean, his opening partnership with Jake Weatherald, what was it, about 75 runs odd between them? It was a beautiful partnership. Weatherald played the position that he needed to play, which was a steady opener, just kind of letting Travis Head do his thing, and he just stayed in with him for a fair slog. He got 20 odd, I think.
Weatherald now Tasmanian, but cut his teeth.
Sorry.
Weatherald's now Tasmanian. Cut his teeth, of course, in South Australia. We could almost claim 4 South Australians in the Test team right now, and I'm pretty sure the last time that happened was 1967.
It's going back a fair way. That's unbelievable. And I think as a South Australian podcast group that we often claim other states as our own, I think we're claiming Weatherald for sure. But look, let's stop talking about the Ashes, because like you said, we have an important guest coming onto the show in the middle of the show. That's Lawrie Colliver. So let's get straight to it. Give me Ben's best.
Yeah, well, Ben's best is another Ben. It's actually Ben Menenti, who has been a real influence for the South Australian team, having returned from injury. He missed the first 2 games of the Sheffield Shield season, Soph, and we lost both. He came back in for the 3rd game against Western Australia in Perth and was really instrumental in South Australia turning a first innings deficit into a really strong performance. It was only bad light and a bit of rain that cost us the victory in that match. And even though Menenti didn't do a heck of a lot in that game with his own numbers, I really feel like his influence in the team has a huge effect on the players around him. Go to Tasmania 2 weeks ago. He performs admirably well. He takes 3 wickets and in the second innings drives the chase with 49 not out in a low-scoring game. Got us over the line. So suddenly now we're back in the mix. And again, he's playing a really important role in this day-night game. Took 3 wickets in the opening innings with his off-spinners. So He's a Neil Danzy medal winner of 2 years ago, been a real surprise packet since he got here. And I just think he's the sort of guy that he walks out on the field and everyone around him just stands that little bit taller. I think that's been demonstrated profoundly in what we've seen with the South Australian season so far this year. He was admirable in the Sheffield Shield final last year and was a real key with South Australia winning it last year. So I just felt like now that he's back in and now that he's performing and South Australia seems to be coming with him, he had to be Ben's best for this week. What about Sophie Starr?
Well, Hookie, I actually love it. I love your choice. And there's a reason that I love your choice. It's probably the biggest cop-out. I've chosen the most obvious pick for Sophie Starr. Excuse me, I've been moving house. I played 30-odd holes of golf on Sunday. So I have chosen Travis Head. I feel like I don't even need to explain myself. What an audacious innings. Just incredible. 123 runs off 83 balls. And like you said, I think he won the first match for the series on behalf of Australia. So that is my pick.
So if no one is going to argue with Travis Head being Sophie Starr this week or any week for that matter, he is a true genius of the game. And just as I made that point, should have been player of the match. He's already won 10 in 61 tests. That's the same amount as Alan Border in 150-odd tests or whatever Alan Border played. So Ricky Ponting a similar number in the entirety of his career. So what Travis Head does is win big games of cricket. There aren't many bigger than the opening test of the Ashes, and he was just so emphatic winning that. I've got no drama with him being Sophie Starr. It's a reasonable choice. We need to get to our guest. Well, Sophie, I like to claim that when you and I talk golf, that I'm the number one and you are the number two. But we're going to talk cricket, international, South Australian and local cricket. And this man is by far and away the number one. Sophie he is Fox Sports cricket expert, and I don't reckon there is anyone in South Australia who knows more about the game than him. His name is Lawrie Colliver, and in the aftermath of what has been an incredible last 72 hours in Australian cricket, he's been good enough to join us. Lawrie Colliver, welcome to Hooked on Sport.
G'day, Ben. Hi, Sophie. Nice to be with you. And you're right. It's been not just a great first test match, the fact that Australia won, but the fact that one of our own, Travis Head, has had such a remarkable role to play. And the way he played on Saturday was quite extraordinary. I don't think I've seen too many innings like that over the years. And it was just a real pleasure to be there.
What's your overriding thought 48 hours after a test match that Australia has won, but in extraordinary circumstances where the match is all over inside 2 days?
Well, I think the main thing about the 2 days was the fact that England batted poorly. In the first innings, they got 172 or whatever it was, and they got away with it because they bowled Australia out and had a 40-run lead. But then when they got themselves again into a position of great strength, they threw away a big opportunity to perhaps have a 300-run lead through not respecting the Australian bowlers. One throw with a 90-odd run lead, Ben Duckett got out to a pretty good ball, well caught by Steve Smith, and then the next 3 wickets were all pretty loose shots, and that's when they probably in some ways lost the game. If they could have just knuckled down and just played sensibly rather than go a little bit too hard, then they could well have got through that situation and set up a match-winning lead. But they just went a bit hard, and even though they had a 200-run lead, they probably felt they might have had enough. But once Trav got going, they could have nearly set them 400, and it wouldn't have been enough.
Yeah, 2 days. I feel like we've had even less time to consider the game than the game actually lasted. It's ridiculous. I'm still a bit shell-shocked about the whole thing, but looking back 48 hours later, it feels like England hasn't learnt from the 23 Ashes. What are your views on that?
I think you've summed it up very well, Sophie. I was at that Ashes and I was at Birmingham, the first test match when England declared late in the day they wanted to have a crack at Warner and Khawaja, and it didn't work. And they nearly won that test because if you remember, Pat Cummins and Nathan Lyon had to make a partnership of about 60. And, Australia probably should have lost that test, but they did enough to win. And then at Lords, when they were in a really strong position batting after Australia made just over 400, and they were none down for about 100, and then they just played some silly shots. But short balls and threw the situation away in that way. And they nearly again won that test through Ben Stokes getting 155 and smashing the Australian bowlers to all parts. But they only get so many chances, and the Australians, well, when their chance came, they took it, and they won their luck as a result.
A South Australian podcast here, Lawrie. I can't go past without just asking you, where does Travis Head's second innings knock rate amongst all of the incredible innings you've seen in international cricket? It's up there for me, but I'm interested in your thoughts as someone who watches cricket religiously.
I was at the Ben Stokes 100 in 2019. I think that still just gets it. You've got to remember that Stokes had to bat with the tail, manufacture the strike. They had to get 360, which was the biggest score in the game. But Travis' innings is not a lot far behind it. I just think, given how Australia batted in the first innings, they're under a lot of pressure. You had Khawaja, basically, probably, I don't know if Uzi could have actually batted. His back was pretty bad. And they were struggling. And he came out and just took the whole game away. And England had no answers. Like, they tried short stuff, they spread the field. And he was just too good for them. And it reminded me, Hookie, with the same vintage of sort of like some of the performances over the years from like a Viv Richards or a Clive Lloyd, or even an Ian Botham, 86-7 at the Gabba when he got 130 odd, smashed them all around. But it did remind me a lot of that. And, we've seen it a number of times now. Last Ashes here, he got 150 against England at Brisbane. He got 100 on a green top in Hobart. He got the 100 in the World Test Championship final against India. And the World Cup final, mustn't forget that either, how he played so well. So he's had 5 or 6 amazing knocks now, and they're the type of innings that you just won't forget. And I think this is certainly one of those, and it's put Australia 1-0 up, which means that England have got to win at least 2 test matches to have any chance of getting the Ashes back.
Yeah, and under the circumstances, I hear, obviously you mentioned Khawaja was injured, and so then they've lost their experienced opener with Weatherall being the debutant. But then I think they were thinking about putting Nathan Lyon out, but Head actually put his hand up and said, no, I want to go out, I want to open. And under those circumstances, he then went, and, it was unbelievable. It's one of the best test centuries or Ashes centuries I've ever seen in my era. But what are you thinking about what Australia do next coming into the second game? Like, what are they going to do with Khawaja? It showed his age, I would have thought.
He looked pretty weary walking off the ground after he went up for that catch and fell awkwardly or whatever happened. And I've got my doubts. I think we saw against India last summer, he was struggling against the quicks. He was helped a bit when Constance came in that 4th test. It did free him up a little bit. And he played okay in a couple of innings late in the series, but essentially I think he's just a little bit done. I think his eyes are starting to go a bit. He's just not picking them up. And if he's got a bit of a physical issue as well, might be time. Whether they tap him on the shoulder or whether they just let it play out and perhaps, he might be not fit to play, that might make the decision easier. We were talking a bit about it over a few beers the other night in Perth, and might remember when Simon Kadich got injured here in the 10-11 Ashes in Adelaide. That was Shane Watson. He sort of had an Achilles issue. And he never played again after. They got Phil Jakes in the team eventually. He did quite well, and Caddo never played again. So he might have reached a similar point with Woodsy there. And, he just looked older than he's 38 when he was walking off that ground yesterday. Golf cart would have been handy for him. He was looking really like he could hardly move. And look, careers come to an end all the time, and I suspect there might be a chance Woodsy has after.
Lawrie, I'm interested in your 11 for Brisbane. I know we're still, best part of 2 weeks away from it. And in particular, do you think Nathan Lyon will play, considering the last time there was a pink ball test is in the West Indies, granted, but they left Lyon out, and of course he only bowled 2 overs in Perth.
Yeah, it's a good point, those that you make. It would be an interesting move. You've still got to think about a test match going 5 days. I think Cummins is fit. He's going to come in now. Is he going to come in to dog it? Probably. But do you decide to keep Doggett in and leave Lyon out as we better have a run out here? It'd be quite distracting when you hear calls of throw this in. But yeah. The question is larger. We've spoken about that. But the bowling, yeah. I mean, you're going with 4 quicks and hope to have the bowl a couple of overs, or keep Lyon in. If Lyon's a bit dicky, and I did actually text him the other day to see how he was, and he said he's okay. Could have a scheme of thought where you just say to him, you don't need him busy in a pink ball test, but we need you in Adelaide and Melbourne where it's going to be good conditions again. So I'm leaning a little bit that way. I'd like to see a spinner in, but I reckon if they not test, may not need one.
So like we keep mentioning, it was a 2-day test, traditionally 5 days. I mean, I think the last time we had a 2-day test was back in 1921. We're about to go into a pink ball. Traditionally, they do finish faster and quicker. I just want to pick your brain. What are your views on the way that test matches are going and they're ending so quick?
Oh, I think the Bazball approach as I said before, like the Bazball approach in Perth, from an England point of view, just didn't work. I mean, even in their first innings, they only batted 32.5 overs. So I think they just go a bit hard. I think I was saying to someone earlier, I think it's a bit like when you drive a car and you have to go through a small country town and slow down. They don't slow down. They just keep driving at 100. And I think that's how you can almost look at it. And they've got to learn that sometimes you need to sort of apply the brakes and just hasten a bit slowly. And that's probably what cost them in the end. And that's why we had a short game and a pretty fast and exciting game, wasn't it?
Hey, Lawrie, you're at Adelaide Oval at the moment. Of course, the Sheffield Shield day-night game is going on there with the pink ball. Just give us an update.
Yeah, so we're getting towards, we've got 40 minutes left for the day. Earlier today, South Australia made 333. Everyone chipped in here and there and got them to that tally. I watched a bit of Hanno Jacobs. He batted pretty well today, which was good. At the moment, Whiteman out a short time ago, caught behind off Buckingham for 8. That was 1 for 34, now 1 for 61. Bancroft 35, Goodwin, young Jaden, son of Murray, who played for Zimbabwe, is on 12. So ideally, for South Australia to have a bit of a chance, they need to get another couple of wickets at least tonight to put WA under a bit of pressure. So the overall deficit is about 80. So if they could get another 2 or 3 tonight, they'd be right in the game. Otherwise, tomorrow it could end up being a draw, which we don't need. South Australia needs a win to stay in the hunt.
Victoria runaways in the Sheffield Shield at the moment, but South Australia sort of in the mix. Gee, it'd be great to get a win out of here in particular when you consider that it's only a 3-day game. We lost all that play on Saturday.
That's why you got to get the wickets under lights, don't you? And they started bowling pretty well with the new ball. Buckingham was excellent. And, they've just got to find a way here to just sneak 1 through. Young Jacobs is bowling at the moment. So hopefully in this last period of play, they've had a few shouts, a few near run-out situations and a few edges, but they just can't get that second wicket at the moment.
Well, you've just written a book about SA's Sheffield Shield win last season. Can you just what's the book about? Obviously, it's about the Sheffield Shield win, but can you just talk us through that a little bit?
Well, it sort of dawned on me that nothing had really been done to sort of say how good it was that we'd won the Shield in terms of like in a publication. And I'd sort of had a bit of it half done already from the Australian Cricket Digest that I put together, which Hookie's been getting for years. And I've done a little 56-page book and through also Michael Sullivan, the one of the media guys here at the Sacker, who's very good with photography and stuff, we've put together a little 56-page book and it sells for $20 and you can get it through lawrie.colliver@gmail.com. So, look, we've got a few signed ones by Ryan that are a little bit more expensive. We've almost run out of those, but it's just a combination of a few match reports, some interviews that I did after the win at Karen Rolton Oval, and some great photos. Sully's done an awesome job, and even my young lad Ben's taken a couple of photos as well, which get a run. So it's just something to remember. What was a memorable time is a bit on the One Day Cup final as well, which we won on March the 1st, and also a bit of nostalgia. We've got some photos from the 1963-64 chaps that are still alive that came and watched one of the games. There's the great KG Cunningham, wonderful Rexy Sellers, Ian McLaughlin, some of those guys, and then just some old cuttings from Shield wins in the past. So it's a bit of a summary of not only the Shield win, the one-day win, but also a little bit of nostalgia for those that remember the likes of Gary Sobers and Barry Richards, who were important members, the Chappell brothers of those Shield wins in the 60s and 70s.
Lawrie, I know that the digest that you put out every year, which is an incredible piece of work, and I'm sure there are periods of times where you get bogged down in it and it's a bit of a grind and hard work, but I'm guessing that putting together the book on the Sheffield Shield victory for South Australia must have been an absolute pleasure and gave you a lot of heartwarming memories as you put it together.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I still get a bit emotional thinking about it. I got to call the winning runs as well, which I don't think anyone alive's done that. So it's something that'll stay with me, and something that's watched a lot of South Australia not win, and it's kind of like, gee whiz, I get to do that. And being from a small country town on York Peninsula who just loved cricket as a kid, and now to be doing what I do, and it's a real highlight for me. And let's hope we get another opportunity to do it. If not this year, maybe next summer. We'll see what happens. But we've got a good squad. We've just got to get a few wins on the board. But no, it's just something that you do. And like what we've done over the years a bit, Hooky, we're lucky to get paid to do it, aren't we?
We sure are. Lawrie.Colliver@gmail.com. I'll just spell that out for all listeners who maybe want to get in contact with Lawrie and get a copy of this book. Only $20. It's incredible value. Yep. LAWRIE.COLLIVER@gmail.com. $20 for the regular copy, $50, I think, for the signed Rhino Harris book, Loz?
Yeah, we've only got about 10 left, and I had to sign a couple too, so I hope it doesn't devalue things too much. But no, we've just done a little print run of 500, and I actually bumped into Conor McInerney's mum just before, and she wants to buy 10. So I thought, well, I'm glad I came into the cricket tonight.
Well, hopefully we can beef up sales here. Hey, just before you go, WBBL tomorrow night, Adelaide Strikers take on Brisbane Heat. They are in a bit of a funk at the moment, the Strikers. Where do you see them?
As are the Heat too. They're really struggling. Look, it's an opportunity for them to get their season back on track. They could sneak into that sort of final scenario with 5 wins, but they got to get a move on. And look, hopefully tomorrow night will be that night. So fingers crossed. No Megan should, unfortunately, but the young leggy Mashungway's back in. Young Eleanor LaRosa might get a run as well. So hopefully they can get their act together tomorrow, and we have a good night down at the Rolton.
A great little clinker challenge that the WBBL Strikers did. Eleanor LaRosa, if she bit into a clinker and it was pink, she had to ask Sophie Devine to sign her bat. And sure enough, up it came pink. So that's been quite a popular clip on social media over the course of the day. It looks a fun game. I'm about to buy a packet of clinkers and play that game with my daughter at some point, I think.
I used to love clinkers, mate. They were sensational. Now you make me hungry for chocolate, which is not a good thing.
Well, you get back to it. You're focused very much on the Sheffield Shield game out there. Mate, thanks so much for your time and all the very best with the book. I can assure you that there'll be a couple of sales courtesy of Hook and Hilditch. I'd love to have one in my cupboard, mate. But thanks so much for your time, and I'm sure we'll keep in contact over the coming weeks.
Yeah, it was a lot of great cricket coming up, and of course Australia 1-0 up, which is fantastic. So no, good to be part of your show, and have a good Christmas to you and all your listeners.
Thanks so much, Lawrie.
Cheers.
Lawrie Colliver, our guest.
Great chat with Lawrie. I love the fact that he was actually at the cricket whilst he was talking to us. Hookie, how do you know him? He's such a character.
Yeah, and an incredible devotee of the game, Soph. It is unbelievable how much he knows about it, how much he lives it and breathes it, as evidenced by the fact that every year he writes a book on Australian domestic cricket, and it is detailed as well. How do I know him? Well, he's a left-handed batter who played for Tea Tree Gully, just like Travis Head, who we've been talking about the entire episode. Wasn't quite as powerful or as adept as Travis Head, but no, handy-grade cricketer. We played against each other quite a bit, and have just sort of hung around cricket and been involved in media ever since, and always got along pretty well. So, no, he's a good colleague to have, because I've often sat there watching games, and my mind can tend to drift a bit if I'm doing the ground announcing, and if Laurie's within earshot, he's always yelling out, "Hookie, change a bowler." So, no, he comes very much in handy. And, I mean, look, we were talking about international and state cricket, but if we put him in charge of telling us about a grade game or a community game, he'd be across that just as well, Soph.
Yeah, I can actually tell just speaking to him that he's across all facets of the game. But speaking about community, let's get you started on the community story of the fortnight.
Yeah, I've got to tell you about Rowan Reid. Now, Rowan's someone that I would have played against a couple of times. He's always been a country cricketer, but he's like the quintessential Bush Bradman of South Australian cricket. He'd be in his early 40s now, so 43 maybe, I reckon, maybe even 44. He made 110 not out for Meadows last week. I'll just give you some numbers. 18,581 runs at 56 playing for Meadows and association cricket over the course of his career. Would have played 23 or 24 years of A-grade cricket now. And we're not talking about someone who's gone back down the grades and playing in the seas and belting up the kids and the 55-year-olds. He's still playing at the top level of community cricket up there in the Hills League. He's made 111 50s, 48 centuries, and he's got 571 wickets at 14. So Rowan Reid, the fact that he's not only still going around, but still going around and dominating up there, I think he's the leading run scorer and got the leading average in the competition so far. So Rowan Reid is my local legend of the week, Soph.
Lucky, gosh, he's got to be tired. That just sounds tiring, just listening to that long list of achievements.
Actually, I've got to be honest with you, Soph. I'm going to jump in. Rowan, get a life, mate. Why are you still playing cricket in your mid-40s? Go and find something else to do. Goodness me.
Like golf?
Yeah. Just smashing around these poor unsuspecting, hills dwellers who think they've got a reasonable game going, developing as they move into their early 20s, and this 40-something just keeps cracking the ball all around the park. What a story.
Okay, Hookie. Well, let's get you started on the Hooked on Sports Cricketer of the Year. There's only been a couple of matches this fortnight, so why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah, so both the matches down in Hobart, Soph, where South Australia took on Tasmania in a Sheffield Shield game and then a one-day cup game, win in the Sheffield Shield, loss in the one-day cup. I gave 3 votes to Liam Scott in the Sheffield Shield. He played a really important all-round performance. I've got to be honest with you, he's been unlucky to miss votes so far this year, the reigning Neil Danzy medalist. So he picked up 3 votes. Ben Menenti, we've talked about him in the show. He was Ben's best this year. He picked up 2 votes for his all-round performance. And Brendan Doggett picked up a vote in that game as well, which sort of catapulted him into the test team. I think he took 6 wickets for the match, Soph. So, and now he's forever a test cricketer. So 3-2-1 there was Scott, Menenti, Doggett. And then in the one-day cup game, which South Australia lost, I've been unlucky where they've lost tosses and got put in a lot in this competition, and that was evident again in this game. I gave 3 votes to Nathan McAndrew for an excellent bowling performance and some runs down in the lower order. Nathan McSweeney picked up 2 votes. He was a real force for us in the upper and middle order, just held that innings together and allowed us to post something defendable. Unfortunately, we didn't defend it, but batted really well. And Mackenzie Harvey just continues to perform admirably in this competition at the top of the order. He picked up 1 vote as well. So that takes us to the leaderboard, Soph. Mackenzie Harvey is our leader on 8, 1 ahead of Nathan McSweeney on 7. We have 2 on 6 votes. That's Jake Lehman and Nathan McAndrew. Wes Agar and Brendan Doggett are both equal on 5 votes. Jordan Buckingham, Henry Hunt, Courtney Webb, Ellie Johnson and Liam Scott are all on 3. Connor McInerney, Lloyd Pope, AJ Wellington, Matty Penner, Harry Menenti, Ben Menenti all on 2, and Gemma Barsby and Courtney Neal with 1 vote each. People will probably look at that and thinking, what are the women doing there? Well, it's a women and men's award. You can pick up votes whether you're a woman or a man playing for South Australia in either the One-Day Cup or the WNCL or the Sheffield Shield competition. And obviously we'll balance it up, working on the theory that the women will play a few less games than the men. So that'll be balanced up on a pro rata basis. But that's our leaderboard to, well, what is getting close to Christmas, aren't we? So we're almost into December. It's Mac Harvey on 8 by 1 from Nathan McSweeney.
Yeah, it's looking like a tight leaderboard up the top, but they seem to be, the names just keep popping up every single fortnight. I'm starting to get a bit bored having to hear of them, but they're having great seasons.
Yeah, and you know what, Soph? I think it's probably a good thing for the women that a lot of those guys haven't really broken away. So Harvey's picked up votes, but he doesn't play in the Sheffield Shield, so he hasn't been able to pick up votes there. McSweeney obviously plays both forms, so on 7, maybe he's your clubhouse leader at the moment. But I think we are going to see when the WNCL returns next year, and they've got a lot of games to play, Webb, Johnson, Penner, Wellington, they are going to be right in this count. So the women, they look like they're a long way back at the moment, but they will come home with a rush.
Well, Hookie, as always great to speak to you. And we'll be back next week on golf. And then the week after, we'll probably be talking about the Brisbane Test match, which will be exciting.
Well, I tell you what is going to be happening, Soph, is that you and Wallace are going to the Australian Open. The PGA Championship gets underway on Thursday, And then, of course, it's the Australian Open the following week. You'll be covering it live for us along with Wallace, which is just going to be amazing. We'll have our real focus on our South Australian players. I think we're going to have 7 or 8 in the field from South Australia in the Australian Open, which is a real tribute to the high performance program that is running out of Golf South Australia at the moment, something to be really proud of. But I'm really excited that you two are going to be in and amongst it at Royal Melbourne, of all places, covering the best and the brightest, from Rory McIlroy right down to whoever absolutely goes DFL, dead freaking last.
Yeah, gosh, am I excited. I cannot wait to see Rory McIlroy live. I think I last saw him live back in 2013 in the Aussie Open, and I've got a shirt all ready and prepared to go.
Looking forward to your exclusive with him, Sophie.
Just you wait.
See you guys.
See ya.
That stumps on this episode of the Hooked on Sport Cricket Show. Thanks for listening. Help us reach more cricket-minded people just like you by following us and leaving a review. We look forward to your company next time on the Hooked on Sport Cricket Show.